Welcome back to another Satisfactory video where today we are making 2400 rocket fuel per minute. Now this is going to power a bunch of generators to produce around 144,000 megawatts. Now recently I made a video about train throughputs and I used these train stations as examples. And real quick, we're going to go over the production of what we're going to be making and the rates at which everything is coming in at. So to start, we have sulfur and coal both coming in at 1600 per minute, which we only need 800 coal per minute, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the extra coal. We have oil coming in, or packaged oil, I should say, coming in at 600 per minute. And we have nitrogen gas over here coming in at 1200 per minute. Real quick, I want to jump over to Obsidian and show you guys the actual production plan so you can see how simple this setup is. Now this right here is Obsidian, and this is like a note-taking app that has some node capabilities. It's used by Bits, who's a large Satisfactory creator, and I really like this design, and it's really nice on stream so I can show people what we are making or what kind of production we're shooting for. This doesn't do any of the math for you, it's just a cool looking layout. But on this production plan, we're making 2400 rocket fuel with the alternate, which will use fuel, nitrogen gas, sulfur, and coal. And you'll notice that 3 of those items are what we're bringing in with trains. So that means we just have to make fuel, which is really easy with diluted fuel. Now recently we made a packaged diluted fuel plant, but this time we are going to use blenders, which means by bringing in 1600 water per minute, which isn't too bad, we can mix that with 800 heavy oil residue and make our 1600 water. We're also using one other alternate, being heavy oil residue. We can make that as a primary output by turning 600 crude oil into 800 heavy oil residue. This will also give us some resin byproduct. So this is the same method we were using on our packaged diluted fuel plant, except we get to take out the packaging water step and just shoot water directly into the blenders. It's a lot easier. For now, we are just going to sink the 400 resin, but I do plan on either exporting it or using it to make maybe more plastic or rubber or possibly fabric. But for now, this will just get sunk. So we're going to turn 600 crude oil into 800 heavy oil residue, combine that with 1600 water within 16 blenders to make 1600 fuel. That just gets sent into 16 blenders to make our 2400 rocket fuel. We also get 400 compacted coal as a byproduct, which we will start with by sinking, and then later we will look to export that to another factory. So the process here is super simple. We basically have 3 production stages: heavy oil residue, blended fuel, and then directly into rocket fuel. So 20 refineries, 16 blenders, 16 blenders, and this is without overclocking. Now if we add in the extra 8 refineries we would need to refine the resin into plastic and rubber, that does use a little bit more space, and we will actually have that here just in case I want to use that option. But I've heard a lot of people say that rocket fuel might be a little complicated, and using this alternate, it becomes super easy. Barely an inconvenience, some might say. So now that you know all the inputs and outputs, I want to show you what we've already built. Now all of this has been done on stream, so if you wish to check it out on either YouTube or Twitch, I usually stream Monday through Saturday, and I try to cover the most amount of time zones possible so the most amount of people can at least tune in for a little while. But the first thing I want to show you is this blueprint hallway. Now this is probably my favorite refinery blueprint I've made. I feel like I say that all the time with these blueprints, but this one is especially awesome. Now if I go highlight this, you can see that there are 2 refineries in each blueprint, and if I look at this blueprint, this middle area with this blue light back here reminds me kind of a nuclear plant. It's kind of fun, but this took a while to build. Between designing and placing and figuring out spacing and incorporating all these elements into this blueprint, it took about the whole stream, a full day really, to kind of set these up. Now this line of generators is 10 on each side, so 20 for this whole hallway. And then I do have this little short one over here as well for future refinement of resin if we wish to do that here. And then in between, this is going to be basically like a logistic access or a utility access behind, so we can kind of interact with things, and it will be all sealed off and such. But I've incorporated these streetlights into both the backs here and the fronts. Now I have them set to like a blue, but you can do whatever you wish, honestly. And then I haven't started placing them, but you can see there's some blenders over here. And one thing we're going to start running into is space issues. Now, technically, we have plenty of space in the whole world, but I really wanted to build in the Spire Coast. It just looks super pretty, and I'm not trying to clip into all of the terrain that we have here, which we probably will run into some, especially right here, and I think there's some on the other side as well. Then we have like this kind of big mountain here coming out as well, and all of this is kind of restricting our space a little bit. And so I think what we're going to end up doing is overclocking some of these blenders to kind of save some space at least. But I have created a blender blueprint as well, and it's probably my favorite blender blueprint, but to be fair, I've only created a few before, so it doesn't really have much competition. But if I grab out this blender blueprint, and I think I'm going to need to place it right about there. We have one blender per blueprint, and you can look at the material cost here. It is kind of expensive. Just about 700 concrete, 300 steel beams, and then just a whole hoist of different materials. But I think when I place a few of these, you'll see why I like him. So I've designed these blueprints to face into each other, so we kind of have this hallway in the middle here. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this to nighttime. And boy, do I really like this orange and blue, the way they work together. But yeah, this blueprint was basically a whole nother stream, although it was a shorter one. It did take pretty much the whole stream to kind of come up with this design. One of the things I wanted to do with this blender on this build specifically was try to keep this animation here when it's running visible and follow the lines. As you can see with the blender here, it has like these lines with kind of like the standing platforms built in. And I wanted to follow that with the designs that I threw in. And so I think it turned out pretty darn well. Something you'll notice throughout this build is that we are going to be using pipes a lot as a decoration, especially with the new finishes. They look really awesome. And they're a really awesome and like unique and versatile, really buildable, that you can just use as design. It doesn't have to be functional. These pipes are not functional, but they do look cool. So we're going to have blenders straight down this side, and we have our packagers to unpack our oil. Now, the nice thing about this is once we get our oil in through the train station, after unpacking, we're never going to have a full 600 line of any liquid. And this is why I wanted to just go and get to rocket fuel before I had to make another power plant, because rocket fuel is a gas. If you guys don't know, gases in Satisfactory act very different than a liquid like a regular fuel plant. There's no backflow issues, and you don't need any pumps. So gas just kind of goes. It is awesome. It's much less of a headache to deal with, and every pipe that will have a liquid, whether it be water, heavy oil residue, fuel, or oil, all of those will be either 400 or less in a Mark II pipe, so we don't have to deal with trying to get that 600 in a pipe. And what's going to happen with these packagers is we only have 7 here, I think. Yeah, we have 7 here. 3 of them will be overclocked, and what we're going to do is have basically half of them do one 300 line of oil, and half of them do the other 300 line. They'll direct feed into one of these sides of the refineries here. So one of these sides will have a 300 line of oil, and the other one will have the other 300 line of oil. That'll create 2 400 lines of heavy oil residue. Those are then going to feed directly into one half of a blender line, into 8 blenders, because they each take 50. It'll mix with the water and make lines of fuel. Now we're going to combine 2 of these blenders. If we look at the recipe for diluted fuel, you can see right here, it's 50 heavy oil residue with 100 water to make 100 fuel. We're basically going to combine 2 of the blender outputs and merge them into one line of 200 fuel. Those are then going to direct feed into our rocket fuel plants, or our rock fuel blenders, sorry. And if we look at the alternate that we're using, we need 100, but I think we're going to have to overclock 8 of these blenders to 200%, which is going to output 300 per, which is pretty perfect, because then we can have 300 in one pipe with plenty of headroom there. So if we do that, it looks like we need 200 fuel, and that works perfectly to direct feed. This also means that we can also direct feed from train station to blender for the nitrogen gas, which is what we are going to do. We can also direct feed the sulfur and the coal. It really works out super awesome to overclock these to 200%, and then we can also later on sloop these if needed to then hit 600 in each line and double our power if we wish, although that would definitely be an undertaking. But I love how these numbers are coming out. Very, very simple, and they really work well together. Again, we are still sinking that extra compacted coal along with the resin, at least for now. A couple things that I wanted to mention in this video is that all the blueprints that you will see on this build are going to have a video build guide attached to them, uploaded to YouTube for members only. Now, the lowest membership cost on the channel right now is just $1 a month. And what I plan to do is make one video a week at least, maybe two, depending on how much time I have. And I'm gonna go through and do a live build guide where I build the whole blueprint from start to finish. And that way you can see all the techniques used, all of the buildables, and exactly how I make them. I know a lot of people aren't interested in directly downloading blueprints from like Patreon or such, but I figured this would be a way for people who are curious on like how I build them to be able to catch a very condensed version of what we do on the live streams just here on YouTube. Again, we do build everything on stream, but it is a whole stream a lot of times for one of these more compact blueprints. Or I say compact, more dense. Dense is a better word here. And a lot of people don't really have time to sift through the VODs that we have on the channel here. And so I figure I'm going to start doing build guides, no commentary, and that way you guys can see how I make these. At the time of uploading this video, there should be 2 live, and they will actually be 2 blueprints that you have not even seen yet. The next video that I will be making will be turning this pile of, well, production and platforms and such into a whole factory that will produce all of the power and all design. Because, I mean, the production of this factory is pretty small. It's 20 refineries and 24 blenders. That is it. And let me tell you in advance, we do go a little overboard with the design on this one. So if you guys are looking forward to seeing a super awesome factory that honestly, in my opinion, might be my best factory I've ever made, stay tuned for the next video. That's about all I have for today. Very soon, within the next couple days, I will be uploading the showcase video for this factory to be. And again, all blueprints used on this factory will be available on Patreon at time of release of this video. But I hope you have a good rest of your morning, evening, afternoon. If you guys enjoyed, let me know down below, and feel free to let me know what you thought of the blueprints down below. But again, have a good rest of your morning, evening, afternoon, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.
I'm slick with words, tongue sharp, you left in thirds. You pitching verbs, I knock it out, I'm flipping birds. While smoking herbs, I'm blocking out what often hurts. I'm moving herds, it's me, my family, money merge.